Hello, friends. Oh, I just realized I tagged my friend Ruben. That's okay. I was trying to say just yoga. So 4 parts of the mind, according to yoga. And I really think this is valuable because let's just be honest, yoga's super popular. Like, how many of you guys have been into a yoga class in the last year? A lot of my friends on here practice yoga or teach yoga or been to yoga or love yoga, at least been to yoga in the park. So I thought it would be really fun. I was in a Fit Body community tonight talking about this, and I thought, why not share with my friends and family here on Facebook also. I'm going to share with you, I think this is really valuable. I love this kind of stuff because I'm an intellect, which is the first part, which likes to break things down into pieces and parts. And so the first part of the mind, according to yoga, is the intellect. What the intellect likes to do, like I just mentioned, is break things down to understand. So it's like a knife. It cuts things in pieces. And when you were in middle school, you might have, I'm just curious, did anybody do dissections? I loved dissections when I was a kid because I could break things down and look at things and get in there. My intellect was very strong. I was told the intellect was how you got places in life, right? I learned later that's not totally true. It's part of it. But the intellect is also the thing that kind of, when you see somebody else and you look at them and you start to try to figure them out or understand them, break them down into pieces and parts to better understand them, that's the intellect. That's just one piece, one part of the mind, one segment of the mind. So the first is the intellect. The second, hey Ria, good evening. What's up, Pamela? Hi, I'm talking about the second part of the mind. The first is the intellect, and the second is the identity. And if the intellect, I mean, how many of you guys want to sharpen your mind, right? The intellect, we often want to sharpen, right? So the downside to the intellect is that it cuts things down and we don't get to see the whole picture. When you have, and then identity, the second part of the mind, so it's the mind who says that you're a woman. It's the mind who says you are an American or Australian or European or from Greece. It's your mind who, creates these identifiers that you have brown skin or olive skin, or that you're a cook, or that you're a coach, or whatever it is. Like, I'm an author. I go to meetings all the time, and I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I'm a business coach. I help visionary leaders build 6-figure business or take their 6-figure business to a 7-figure business. These are things that I identify with. But if I identify with them totally and they get taken away, then I feel like nobody, nothing. That would be the case if that's how I fully identified. So that's only part of the mind. You'll know people that identify a certain way. So then therefore they will fight for that. No matter what, I'm not letting go of that. And you've seen people kind of fall hard because they have identified in a certain way, right? They have a certain identity. So what's the third part of the mind? If the first is the intellect and the second is identity, the third is memory. And I am going to be very vulnerable, working on my vulnerability. So I keep saying that to you guys. I hope you guys notice. My coaches would be proud, I think. I don't know if proud's the right word. Okay, memory. We've been told if you don't have a good memory, you're stupid. Right? Have you guys ever felt stupid? When you couldn't remember something, you're like, God, I wish I could remember that. I feel so stupid. That doesn't feel good for some reason, right? It just doesn't feel right because it's not true. Okay. You have the mind has all sorts of capacities. We're going to learn about the fourth. The fourth is the best one, by the way, I believe, because we have these down. We've got these, we're pretty good at these overall. What's interesting about memory is this. There's all sorts of kinds of memory. I'm going to talk about 2 kinds of memory tonight. Memory, evolutionary memory. So single-celled organisms, fish, reptiles, then, birds, then there's been mammals and cavemen and then humans. Woohoo! Here we are. We've arrived. There's some sort of memory though in us, in every cell, of our body. Like our beingness knows, based upon our physiology, that our spine was, we were a snake. Our lungs, fish gills. Our wings, our arms. We have these appendages, right? We walk. We're upright. Like, we've evolved, and our body knows that. It's not like we're going to devolve. We're not going to go backwards. There's enough memory in our body to know not to like have a baby that's going to be an elephant, right? Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. That is way smarter than the intellect. The intellect just knows how to cut things down and break them into pieces and parts. But the memory knows, like, if your mom and dad have a baby, it's going to be a human. It's not going to be an elephant. It's not going to get confused. There's not going to be confusion. There's evolutionary memory, and there's genetic memory. That's the second one, the genetic memory. And so where infinite intelligence comes in, which is the last, I'm going to weave the genetic and infinite intelligence together. Infinite intelligence is this intelligence with no memory. It's the energy that we think about that Einstein tapped into or Tesla tapped into because they were brilliant. And they knew that if they let go of having to know, if they let go of fighting for who they were, they didn't care. They just did their thing. And if they allowed themselves just to rest, they took good care of themselves. They allowed themselves to rest into the, just knowingness that their, evolutionary genetic memory has brought them forward. Then they could tap into this infinite intelligence. And infinite intelligence is also part of the mind. So these are 4 parts of the mind, really 4 segments of the mind, according to yoga. And you get to play with all of them. That's what's amazing about being a human being, is that you have so many options. Hello. So cool. You get all sorts of options in your experience. So you can, do really cool stuff with your intellect. You can break things down in pieces and parts. And I used to be very strong in my intellect. That was like where I played. That was where I played. That was what I was told. In the U.S. in particular, this is what tends to be valued. If you don't have a strong intellect, you're not valued as strongly in this nation, right? And that's unfortunate, I believe, because that's only one piece of, you really can't know somebody by just knowing their intellect. It's just not, you can't know them as a human. It's not their whole being. It's not their whole, there's so many things. Like I know somebody who she just learned that a friend that she's known for over a decade loves to play the piano. Had no idea, right? And this woman has an identity as someone who loves to play the piano. And I'm sure that if the piano got taken away from her, she would have some sort of maybe potential crisis, maybe not. It depends on how strong she identifies with it. Being a mother, being a father, being people get kicked out of churches or kicked out of a job, and then they feel lost because their mind is telling them that they're this, and their intellect isn't realizing that they can be more than just that. There's all sorts of you can be whatever, lots of different stuff in this world. I'm stuttering. Can you tell? That's fascinating. You can be a lot of different things in this world. I want to say you could be anything, and there are some limitations. Your skin is always going to be a certain color. You can shade different shades, but hey guys, hey John, good to see you. Hey Tim, good evening. So the third memory here, you can just know that your body, one single cell of your body has more intelligence than your whole brain. One cell of your body, than the capacity of your brain, I should say, because there's cells in your brain. I know that. one cell, even brain cell, has more intelligence than your brain has the capacity to process, because from the intellectual standpoint. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to say that one more time. One brain cell has more intelligence than your whole brain has intelligence for you. Hope that makes sense. I totally get it, but I feel like I'm not verbalizing it well. I hope that makes sense to you guys. I know I said that 3 times. I'm going to tap into infinite intelligence because I'm up here in the intellect, and you can tell it's not as comfortable. It's like heady. Okay. Infinite intelligence is that place where it's unbounded, no memory, and where you get those feelings of like, I get this feeling I need to move to Denver. I'm not sure why. Just gonna go. Doesn't make sense from the intellect. I never have been to Denver. Maybe something inside my cells is calling, but something is moving me. Right? That's the infinite intelligence. And this is the place that I believe where we are now as a collective, where we are evolving to, and where we have the capacity to play in more. Why? Because we have time. People say they don't have time, but let's just be honest. It used to take 24 hours just to feed yourself, find enough food to feed yourself. And now you have time to meditate. You have time to do yoga. You have time to pause. And I don't care if it's 5 minutes a day, you have time now. We're not in survival mode like we gotta hunt because we're not gonna have food for the next 3 months. Like, you can go to Walmart and fill your house with food for a year and never leave your house. It's just it's just where we are right now. It's just true. It's just the truth. You can do that. I'm not saying do that. I don't want you to do that. But you could, which means we have the capacity to tap into infinite intelligence, because now our intellect isn't having to break down all of this stuff to make sure we're safe and we have food, and we don't have to identify anymore as like separate. We're starting, there's a lot of people stepping into this, oneness consciousness, this understanding that each one of us is connected to one another and affects one another. Each one of us is has an potential to impact each of the other people, the whole world. I believe that lots of you out there, and a lot of people that I'm connected to in particular. So I would love to get some hearts right here. If you feel like as you move forward in your world, as you work on your mind, as you work on thinking about, well, like, what area do I want to play in most? Do I want to be in my intellect? Do I want to be, identified with a certain kind of person? Do I want to, I don't really have a whole lot to say about memory. I was just talking about, there's all sorts of stuff to say about memory, but I just talked about genetic and evolutionary memory. So just, understand that, like, your body is actually way more intelligent. Every cell of your body is way more intelligent than your brain will ever be able to do for you. And when you can get into that memory, that genetic memory, that cellular memory, you pause, you tap into your inner intelligence, that's when you get connected to the infinite intelligence. That's when you start that has no memory at all. That's what manifestation is. That's how you get to create newness, is because you're no longer stuck in the intellect of how do I do it? You're no longer stuck of like, oh, I've never been and done that before. And you're no longer stuck in my brain's the only thing that can figure it out. You're in your body and you're tapping into that infinite intelligence, that unbounded memory that's like, whoa, how could I do that? That's creative. I feel that new thing. Huh, interesting. You get these feelings, these new ideas that just boom, boom, boom. And we've all had it. I was up last week at 3 a.m. one day writing. For 2 hours, I just got massively. Sometimes I feel like my skull opens up. My skull. That word's a little hard for me to say. Skull. I used to say it in yoga a lot. I wonder if it said it weird in yoga. When I would teach yoga, this is a brilliant example. I love this. When I teach yoga, I tend to be like in this flow. I don't really know I'm not worried about anything. I'm not thinking about anything else. I don't feel like I'm a yoga teacher. It's the same thing with speaking. When I'm up there speaking, I don't feel like, oh, I'm a speaker. And when I'm with my clients, I had calls with, I had 8 client calls today, 8 hours of calls today. That's a lot. My lips are actually chapped. It's so fun. I'm not tired. It's just my lips are chapped. I was like, oh, I talked a lot. Besides that, and then I spoke over the weekend and talked a lot over the weekend. But what I recognize is that that's the space within that and everybody has a different space. I got a hula hoop. When I'm hula hooping, I'm in that infinite intelligence space. There's no identity. I'm not like, oh, I'm a hula hooper. It's just like, wow, this is fun. If I'm on stage speaking, I'm like, whoa, I love connecting with people. You know, when I'm teaching yoga, I love helping people move and feel better. There's just this like space, and it's not really like, there's no identity. There's no thinking behind it. There's no worries, just happiness, just peace, calm, joy. And I think that we live in a time that, you know, this intellect, the identity is what's causing the suffering. The addiction to the uncontrollable, even. It's really just uncontrollable thoughts. Can't stop. They hurt people. What's up, Carrie? Hey, Christy. Good to see you. So the intellect, you know, I'll put this back up. The intellect is actually this kind of, when we're attached to thoughts, it's the uncontrollable thoughts that cause suffering. The identity, thinking you're different than somebody somehow, causes suffering. The idea that, you know, your body doesn't know anything and you got to figure it out in your mind. No, your body knows everything. It's telling you everything you know if you actually listen, friends. I'm going to get on my high horse for a second. I can feel it. I'm going to go ahead and hop back down. I didn't even hop up. I think I just gave the horse a little boom. But I felt really passionate all of a sudden about this. Like, your body is telling you everything you need to know. Listen. Like, I had to. I mean, when I was living in Ohio, I was like, whoo, I was doing all this stuff. My life was falling apart. And I was like, I was having a digestive issues, high blood pressure. There's all these things going on, you know, and I looked fine from the outside, but the inside had some things falling apart. So I realized my body was talking to me. I needed to get my life together, and I did. So my body's, you know, I feel good now. There's things that happen. What happened recently? Oh, this is embarrassing. There's only one person on, so I'm going to say it. But I got a hemorrhoid recently, and I did it to myself because I was worried. I was so stressed about an event coming up, which it's like, I don't do that. It was weird. I hadn't experienced something like that in so long. And the fear around the deadline and stuff is actually what will give people, the fear around the future and stuff will give people hemorrhoid. And it was just like real subtle, but it happened. And I was like, oh my God. And that's because, and so my body was talking to me, and I listened and I let go of the stress. I said, I'm not worried about the deadline anymore. I let go, and I went to bed and I woke up and it was gone. And so I realized that you listen to your body. It'll tell you what you need to know. You need to figure something out, and like with this intellect whole thing. And then you get to let go of that. Let go of the body even, right? At times, not always, but times. And let go of the thoughts, let go of the identity, and tap into what some would call God. It's within you. It's around you. It's everything. It's everywhere. It's just a part of the mind, 4 parts of the mind, not yoga, not 4 parts of yoga. I'm going to write that over. 4 parts of the mind. You can see, I love the way I feel when I start talking about the infinite intelligence because my voice slows down. So that's based from yoga. Yeah, 4 parts of the mind. All right. Let me know if you guys have any questions. And I think this is, I have to just put this forward right now because I'm talking about 4 parts of the mind and how we live in the intellect a lot. And we want, I believe that as we move forward towards like the infinite intelligence, we'll have less suffering, we'll have better health, we'll have more abundance, we'll create the actually life we want, because this is where it happens. It's manifestation, tapping into that infinite intelligence and co-creating with it. But I have to call myself out right now because this is very heady. This is very intellectual. I have a whiteboard. I have like markers. I just have to say that it's very intellectual. So I just noticed that, and that's my tendency. I tend to live in the head because it's really it's comfortable because it's patterned. It's uncomfortable because if it takes over. So that's why, boom, getting in the body. boom, getting into the infinite intelligence. So good and yummy because it feels good. I love you guys. I hope this was super helpful. And let me know, what part of your mind are you playing in this week? In your intellect or your infinite intelligence? I'll just put those two out there. I would say try out infinite intelligence. It'll be super duper fun. Blessings. Namaste.